we are here to talk about member engagement score. Greg, I think that might be the next slide. Yes, it is. So this is a topic that we get lots of questions on. We've had previous webinars on calculating member engagement score, but you have the score and then what do you do with it? So Bill and Greg are going to be walking us through all the various things you could and should be doing with your score today. You can ask questions throughout. This is very interactive in the Q&A or in the chat. We will be sharing the recording afterwards, so you can look out for that to revisit it or share with colleagues. And yeah, I think I will turn it over to Bill and Greg now.
Thanks a lot, Katrina. We've introed ourselves. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. Typical agenda, we want to get you involved early, so we're going to do some polls. We're going to ask you some questions about audience engagement. Obviously, we're going to be monitoring the chat and the Q&A at all times. So if you have any thoughts, please throw them in the Q&A. We'll make sure we call them out as we go through. We're going to talk not about calculating the engagement score. We're going to talk about what the heck you do with it now that you have it. And we're going to take a look at this from a couple standpoints. We're going to go really high level. How do we understand the journey our members take through our value proposition? What sort of things they do, where the inflection points are. We're going to zero all the way in on one person, and we're going to use that person's score in a number of ways. And then we're going to combine the two. We're going to say, now that we understand what a typical journey looks like, and we know where that person is on their journey, how do we leverage that? Obviously, we'll do some key takeaways. We'll be answering your questions as we go through. If you're not familiar with us, what are you doing on our webinar? You all know who we are at this point. We are Association Analytics. We're a software company specifically focused on helping associations like you benefit from all the data you have. We have a software platform called Acumen. We wrap that software in services like integrations and data governance and data cleanup and how to even use analytics like we're doing today to help enable your success. Our whole goal and our whole mission here is to help the association marketplace be more data informed, leveraging that data to help run their associations better, because we think that's a reasonable mission. So let's get started with some poll questions. Katrina, if you could launch our first poll question here. The question here is no trick here. What statement about engagement scoring is most true for your association? We don't have any engagement score yet. Our engagement scoring project is ongoing. We're in the middle of it. We've tried engagement scoring and we just gave up. It just didn't work. Maybe some AMS engagement scoring might fall into those. We have engagement scoring, but we're not effectively using it. We've got the numbers. I just don't know what to do with them. And then we're at the promised land. We have engagement scoring. We're happy with it. We understand how to make key decisions. Where do you fall? Let us know. I'm interested to see this one.
Yeah, this is one of those poll questions. I feel like we're going to get the results, and you'll probably see these again later. This is going to be something that we can dive into maybe in a future webinar. So looking forward to this one.
All right, let's see. Don't have engagement scoring at all yet. This is actually shocking. I would have imagined more people had started down the road of engagement score, but I think it drops off pretty quickly there. No one's given up. That's exciting. 31% of us are still working on the project. 17% of us have it. No one's happy with it yet. So let's talk about how do we continue that project to make sure you are happy with it.
Yeah, and I would say for the ones that said you have it, but you haven't been able to use it effectively, if there's any insights that you would share with the group, maybe we can even discuss those at the end. Be curious to hear, what kind of obstacles you've run into.
And Keith, I'm cool with that. Even if you haven't configured the weights of your engagement scoring, the fact that you have something is good. Later, you can go in and tweak those weights based on what you're seeing and based on your value proposition. But I think you're off to the right start. Maybe Jill, maybe the AMS is a good place to do it. Maybe not.
Yeah. So let's jump in and talk about engagement a little bit here. So again, this is not the discussion where we talk about how to what is engagement and how to score it and all of that, but there is an important idea here. When we think of engagement, we want to think of it as something that illustrates an exchange of value, right? So you've probably heard us talk about this before. There's this sort of continuum between the value that the member gets, that's kind of on the left side, and the value that the association gets. So In some cases, we have the member is kind of getting most of the value and the association is not getting much. On the right side, we have cases where people's kind of auto renew, they pay their dues, maybe they buy some things. So the association's getting some value, but the member's not really getting much from the relationship. And so what we're really looking for is something that's in the middle, that's kind of in the sweet spot. We're going to call that profitable promoter. That's kind of a name for the persona that we've given it. Yours, could be something else if you have a name for it at all. But in pretty much every case, it's going to be the type of member, the type of individual or organization that believes in the mission. So they're mission driven. They're not really bargain hunting. They're looking for value, not just price. They're probably an advocate for your brand. They're loyal. They're highly engaged. They probably donate and volunteer. And they're also, in most cases, one of the top spenders, right? So they're generating a lot of revenue as well. Right. So to sort of build on that idea a little bit, personas are convenient way to categorize, and to segment our members. And you can have different names for these, but they kind of, fall into, some, in some ways buckets that kind of resemble what we have here. So again, we have the profitable promoter. That one is in the middle, kind of in the sweet spot. And then on the left side, there's ones that are kind of getting more value. You have your bargain hunter, right? They kind of, maybe they join only when there's a promotion, or they join to attend the meeting and then they drop off, something like that. They're just looking for a good deal. The one that's on demand really only becomes a member when it's convenient for them. Again, that's very common around annual meetings, or maybe they want to submit an abstract or something like that. So there's room for them, right? And you'll take members like that, but ultimately you want those that see more long-term value and have loyalty with the organization. Now on the other side, far to the right, there's your autopilot, right? This is the one, and every association has a lot of these. They renew year after year. But I mean, if you were to ask why, like, what do they value about the relationship? You could not answer that question, right? Because it's literally the only thing they do. And maybe it's a credit card payment that's automatic, or the company pays, but for whatever reason, they're happy to pay, but they really don't participate. Mentors are those that they participate a bit, but not as much as they used to. And they maybe they're in a retired or an emeritus type status, and so they don't generate as much revenue, right? So, but the association is getting a lot of value from that, but maybe they're not able to participate the way that they once did. So again, this is illustration of the idea of that sweet spot, the profitable promoter there. Right. Okay, so how do we use engagement scores? So as we talked about a few minutes ago, we're going to look at this in a couple of different ways. We're going to look at it in the aggregate, which is where we kind of look at engagement scores, across all of our population. That's members and non-members. It's pretty much all of our customers. We want to be able to then look at that on an individual level, right? Because we talk a lot about in our marketing and in other areas where we want to be able to personalize the experience. So that goes for engagement as well. And then when we think about an engagement journey, that's typically something that's, we're not talking about here like a customer journey, right? Where you're trying to get a conversion or trying to get me to sign up for an event. We're talking about the different stages and the way that you build that relationship and that connection with your members and your customers over time.
All right, get ready for my metaphor here. The first phase here is we're trying to build a map. What does our journey look like from start to finish? What's the pathway people go? The second phase here is we're trying to figure out where is our individual member on the map? Where is Bill on the map versus where's Greg on the map? And then in stage 3, we're trying to give that member a compass. Instead of saying just head in any direction you want, we're trying to say head in this direction. This is direction successful members follow. And I want to show you how we're going to do some of these things today. We were just going to talk about it, but I think showing you in the software is going to give you some of those light bulb moments when we walk you through this. So as we're aggregating this data, we're starting really, really high level. And what we're doing here is we're validating our value proposition. What is it that people we engage with like? What is it, the things they do? We're starting to segment those out by defining personas. Are there specific member types or categories that operate differently than others? We're starting to segment people. Are there people at the beginning of their journey, the middle of their journey? Is there an end of their journey where we find people do different things than people did at the beginning of their journey? And ultimately, we're looking for inflection points. Is there a tipping point when we can say somebody moved from sort of learning about us and dipping their toe in the water to they're in to they're all the way in? What are those inflection points? And then how can we use those inflection points for our own purposes? Because what this is going to allow us to do is optimize our marketing campaigns. What I don't want you to do is when a brand new member signs up, day one, email them, hey, we've got a foundation, you should be donating. Hey, we've got a board, you should be serving on it. What we think you should do is warm those people up and get them excited about those value propositions, get them to start learning about the value of the organization. So when it's time to make those calls to action, we can. Think about that curve we talked about with the different personas. Where is each person in the journey on their persona, and how do we best target them with that information? So I want to show you what this might look like. And to do that, I've got my handy dandy demo site here, and I'm going to bring up my engagement scoring model.
So as you're doing that, Greg, I just wanted to ask a quick question to the group, and that is, I think, most every association that we've talked to that's doing engagement scoring at all is at least doing it at the individual level, right? So it seems like the end goal is to, in their AMS or somewhere, to have a profile which has a number that means something, right, in the context of your engagement score. So I'm curious if, for those that are doing it, are you looking at it in the aggregate at all? I mean, or is it really just something that where the end goal is to get a number on Greg's profile and Bill's profile, but are you doing what Greg's about to show, or maybe wait till he shows you and then see if you're doing it, but are you looking at engagement score as an aggregate measure, or really just by individual?
That's a great question. I'd love to see some answers from that. And I think after you see this, you're going to want to start doing this as well. So skip forward a little bit. We've got our model point for distribution. These are the things I care about. These are all the things we're measuring. We've got our average engagement score over time. This is the visualization we're going to be looking with and manipulating today. And then we've got our population broken into deciles. Now, I'm not saying everybody's a brand champion. Moreover, I'm saying a lot of people are down here, but we have some people in the middle and we have people at the top. And our goal is to understand that journey and how people move through it over time. So we're going to be focusing on this specific viz today, and we're going to zero in on this, and I'm going to start turning engagement score up. So we're going to go, let's unselect all these, and we're going to go from the very low level all the way to the top to see how our engagement changes. So let's start off with, I refer to them as the tire kicker people. They're not even members yet. These people are spending a lot of time on our website. They're logging into our website on a regular basis. Occasionally they open and click on our emails, but not really. These people are 100% pullers. They're coming and asking for information when they want it on their terms. But as we start increasing up the engagement score, we're going to focus on the changes from one bucket to another. So now we've got you at level 2. You've done a lot of this orange thing, which is membership. You're a member. Great. It's awesome that you're a member. What else do you do at this dipping your toe in the level water? Well, you start to access our website. That's good to see. I'm sorry, you continue to access our website. So you're coming to us for when you have questions. You're starting to take more credits. So I assume you joined as a member to get access to those credits, and you're starting to purchase things from us. So you're buying things. Again, I assume you wanted that member discount to buy that book or whatever. So you're dipping your toe in the water. So let's cruise on up the engagement scale. Here we see being a member is still an important part, but other things are coming into the picture. Credits is getting bigger. Email, click, and open rates is getting bigger. You're still coming to the website and you're still buying stuff from us. Let's keep turning that engagement score up. Now you're at level 4. At this point, the number of credits you earn has eclipsed your membership. Being a member is no longer the number one thing you do with us. You're doing a lot of other stuff. You're earning a lot of credits from our LMS. You're buying a lot of things from us. You're still coming to our website and opening our emails. That's good to know. And what we're going to see is some of these trends are going to continue. So we've made an inflection point. We've actually had 2. Inflection point number 1 was when we went from this first bucket of people who weren't yet members, right? They're just coming to our website and hanging out. And the first inflection point we hit was when they commit to become a member, but membership is still the number one thing we can measure from them. Inflection point number 2 we get is when we tip the scales and membership is no longer the #1 thing that you do with us. At this point, earning credits, buying things from us has eclipsed that value of just being a member. So we can see 2 inflection points have already happened. And then let's continue to ratchet up our engagement. So as we're more engaged, you're still earning credits, you're a member for a month, you're opening our emails, you're purchasing stuff from us. We're going to keep turning this engagement score up, and we're going to watch the results as we continue to go up. So we're still earning credits, we're still buying things. I'm starting to see some other colors show up at the bottom, but just very limited. Continuing to turn this score up. We'll go to level 7 now. We can see credits, purchases, membership, emails. These are all still important things. Emails have now eclipsed website. So you're no longer coming to my website when you have questions. We're sending you content that's relevant to you. You're opening our emails on a regular basis. And we're eventually going to get to that tipping point where here it starts, right? The number of activities at the bottom start really showing up. This is where we're getting people to do all those other things. They're participating in our online community. This green thing, this shows up a lot more now. They're doing these red things. They're donating to our foundation. They're volunteering. They're posting in our online community. They're serving in leadership capacity, right? Let's keep turning this scale up and understand that these items at the bottom are going to continue to grow and get bigger all the way until we get to our top decile. Our most engaged members are fully realizing our value proposition. Now, what do I mean by sort of planning the map out and how members or potential members move from one to the other? We've seen the journey, right? It starts off by coming to the website and learning about us. It continues, you start to buy things from us, you become a member and you start to buy more things from us. At some point, you're engaging with our education and our purchases more than membership. And when we get to that level 8, 9, and 10, we see the last inflection point where you're fully realizing the value of membership and you're starting to do all these other things in our value proposition that we talked about. So I think that's a super fun exercise to do. I'd love for you all to be able to do that with your data and either validate your preconceived notions or better understand what that journey looks like.
Cool. Yeah, so just a quick comment on that. I mean, I think it was kind of clear at the level of detail that Greg went through that, but one of the things that we point out when we show this to customers and to prospects is, and I think you know this intuitively, but being able to see it visually in the data is really enlightening, and that is that the value proposition is quite, can be and often is quite different, from your lesser engaged members or customers to your highly engaged customers. So it's not just, if I'm barely engaged and Greg's highly engaged, it's not just that he does more of the same than me. He does totally different things, right? And then that idea of the inflection points is that there's an order to this, right? It's not necessarily a sequence in time, like, month 1, month 2, month 3, but by and large, people aren't going to donate and they're not going to volunteer until they've seen some value in other, sort of lesser engagement type activities, like, taking some courses or attended some webinars or attended an event, right? So there is, if not a time sequence, there's definitely sort of a hierarchy of commitment, right, that you go through as you see engagement score increasing.
Bill, I wanted to mention 2 other real quick things, and I'm looking at the clock. I'm already a little behind. I talk a lot. I wanted to talk 2 other things on this that I thought were really interesting. If we look at overall engagement, but we change something like organizational type, what we can start to understand is that different types of members engage in different types of ways. If I look at my government agencies that are members, they spend a tremendous amount of time on our website. They buy credits from us. They purchase things from our store, but membership isn't really what they want out of us. Versus if we look at consultants engage in a very different way than government organizations. These people spend significantly less time on our website and way more time earning credits. So we can start to understand that not only is the journey over time different, it's different for different groups of people. I shouldn't expect those government agencies to join. That's not really what they're looking for. I also think it's interesting. We can say current member equals no. And I think this is a really interesting thing here, is what causes someone not to be a member. So this orange is membership. I can see that current member equals no, it drops there. Now, interestingly enough, there are other changes in their behavior. They stop going to our website as much. They're doing different things with us. And those might be indicators that they're no longer going to renew their membership. If we see these behaviors change rapidly, we might assume that this other behavior is going to change as well. Interesting concept there. So thing number one we want to do is build the map. What does the journey look like? How does that progression change over time? Now, thing number two we want to do, and this is probably what most of you were expecting when we talked about engagement scoring, is we want to look at the person. So now we have a map. Step number two is identifying where is Bill on that map. And we want to use Bill's engagement score as a person to identify potential buyers, attendees, speakers, the likelihood that you're going to donate, people who we should ask for nominations, leadership positions, volunteers, influencers, thought leaders. Think about that curve, and when we identify those inflection points, we now know that people with an 80 or higher are really likely to do some of these calls to action we have. So how do we start leveraging that? Well, in my demo site, I've got events. We run events every year. And one of the major events we run is our annual event. I've got 7,000 attendees already coming to this event. And one of the questions I have is we need extra speakers. You know, it'd be cool if we could get some of those people at the government involved as potential speakers. And, you know, I think we could really have a data scientist at our conference. It would be great if we could identify a potential data scientist to come to our event and speak. If I only knew a list of all the data scientists who were already registered from the government, they're already coming to our event, and they have an engagement score. I guess I have to change this to greater than. We now know that people with an engagement score of greater than 80 are highly likely to volunteer to speak at our event. Boom, here we go. Here's my list of potential speakers at that upcoming conference. You're already coming. Of course you can speak. You're at the right time in your journey for that call to action. What about committee participation? So just looking at my overall membership, I know that we're looking for some senior executives to join one of our committees. What if I was able to identify all the executives within my membership? I was able to get a list of those people and say, just don't give me all of them. We now know that people 8 or higher really love to engage in our committees. And furthermore, I'm looking to diversify my committees. I don't want someone who's been on the committee before. Can you find me a list of people who have never served on a committee, but fall into that really high engagement? We're also looking, can they be certified? That'd be cool if they were certified. Nope, nobody's certified. We got to get some more people there. But here's a list of people who are likely to say yes to that committee participation, because we can identify exactly where they are on their journey, and we can use that to send them the right message at the right time. So thing number two I want to do with my engagement score is find out, where is Bill on that map? What is the next potential step for Bill? And how do I use this to identify the other Bills of the world who are ready to be speakers and connect with us?
All right. So before we get into engagement journey, I want to answer a question in the chat here from Alan. So he's talking about weighting of engagement behaviors and how that can sort of throw off. You need that context to understand where your inflection points really are, and that is you know, a whole other webinar really on how to actually score engagement. But the short answer is yes. So there's some videos that we have out on engagement scoring in 3 easy steps, and the steps are: choose the activities, choose the weights for those activities, and then calculate engagement. So, and the calculation in our case is done by the software, but regardless of what tool you're using, you have to choose the activities that you have data for, and you do have to weight them, you know, so that you're looking at things in the right context. And one other thing I would add, you know, for doing it outside of a tool is we really should apply the concept of decay, so that you're counting things that happened recently more than those things that happened long ago. All right.
Alan, I don't think it's a problem. I think as long as you're conscious that there are weights and that's in your measurement, you're good to go. We may also want to weight things that happen very infrequently higher, so they show up and really stand out, and things that we value higher. If you look in my example, we might be giving too much weight to something, or not enough weight to other things, and we could adjust those numbers a little bit to get a better scale. So I don't think it's a problem as long as we're aware that there's weighting in our math and that we're using that weighting as an intelligent way to understand it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Katrina's put the link to the earlier webinar, which is great. So this one starts from the point that you already have a reliable model that's gonna help you identify, those promoters, right? Those profitable promoters that are at the top of the curve that we're showing here. So this is an engagement journey. This concept is to kind of overlay what we call a commitment curve with an idea of different stages or tiers that you would go through in an engagement journey. So and your actual activities that are on this curve might be different, but you start off with members or customers that are just interested, right? So they're that maybe they're coming to your website, maybe they download a paper, maybe they make a small purchase, something like that. Eventually, and maybe this is also the place where they join, right? There's a lot of members that join, and then they never really do much else. But at some point, there's some kind of inflection that gets them from interested to active, and that's where a lot of your members are going to be. They're joining the community, they're taking courses, like actually taking courses that you offer, continuing education. They probably renew, so now they're members for more than that first year. Maybe they volunteer, right? So again, the activities here are going to vary from one organization to the next, but these are like your this is like the bread and butter, right? This is like the bulk of your members, hopefully, are at least what you'd consider active, and then some subset of them are going to be what we're calling connected, right? So those are the ones that have been a member for a few years. They're kind of in or very close to that middle sweet spot that we looked at on the on that continuum before. They're donors, they're brand advocates, they're the ones that speak at your conference, they promote your brand, and they value the mission of the organization. So you're connected to them, and they're very likely to retain, to renew their membership, to be members for a long time. So I think this is a useful way to think about the overall journey.
It gets me excited when we looked at the demo of the software today, that organization we made up. The activities mirror a journey very similar to this. So step one was create the map. Here's your map. Step two was figure out where Bill is on the map and use that. But then step three is apply this to everybody out there. Give everybody their own individual compass to show them where they are on the map and point them in the right direction. Imagine you're in the middle of this journey map and I just say, pick a random direction and head in that direction. That's probably not the best. What if I could say, you're at stage 3, next up, you should head this direction. And I want to be careful when we think about this, because it's not like 1 month I'm here, the next month I'm there, the next month I'm there. Everybody goes along this journey at their own time. It's not a straight line either. Sometimes I go up, sometimes I go down, sometimes I go on vacation to Europe for 6 months and come back. Like, this journey is more of a direction than a specific path. It's more of a nudge and a guidance than it is, you must do this thing next in our sequence. However, if we're looking to improve overall engagement, giving that person a compass is going to push them in the right direction. We know that an engaged member is a retained member. So if we can get them to engage in the right activities, we can get them to renew. We can optimize our calls to action. We're not sending donation and volunteer notices to somebody who just joined. We're waiting till they get higher up that commitment curve. And I think this is something that I'm really passionate about, is building a sustainable membership pipeline. How many of us complain that it's so hard to find a volunteer or a committee member or someone to serve on our board? And my question is, have you been building a pipeline of people who are ready for that next activity, right? We're not going to go from 0 to 100. We're going to go up that commitment curve. And if you don't have people at the stage right before being on the board, you're not creating a sustainable pipeline for board members down the road. You're missing out on the opportunity of ensuring the sustainable health of the organization, right? Cultivating those volunteers. Exactly. If you're not doing that, you're failing to maintain the organization for the long term, because it's not our association and our organization, it's everybody's, right? If the next generation doesn't get to benefit from everything we did, we're missing out. If we're not involving them early enough, we're not going to be successful down the road.
All right. Yeah, so we got through fast today. So let's talk about some key takeaways. And as I'm going through this, definitely welcome any questions or comments that you'll have. I think we have a few minutes for that today. So I guess the first thing I would say is, obviously, if you're not doing member or customer engagement scoring, you need to start that, right? I mean, start it today if you can. If you have a tool that helps you do that, if you can do it in your AMS, that is better than nothing. I mean, if, obviously, if, in our opinion, there are better ways to do that, outside the AMS, incorporating more data sources, but in any form or fashion, however rudimentary, if you can start scoring today, you're going to be better off. And then so looking at the different ways, so you want to use your aggregate scores to validate and improve your member value, right? So that's answering question, like, just at a basic level, are we doing better at engaging our members and our customers over time? Yes or no, right? So that curve, is it going up or is it going down? And that's probably, that's one of the most valuable things that you can know, just to know if you're on the right track. So the individual scores that make that up, you want to use those scores to filter and to segment, right? To find participants, right? Participants in a donor program or an event, whatever it may be. You want to be mindful of where those individuals are in this overall journey, but you use that information and their overall scores to target them for specific calls to action, and to give them that nudge at the appropriate time, at the appropriate level, so that you can, start to do things like, build that pipeline for the future. And then lastly, the engagement journey is, again, for optimizing those call to actions, for creating those lasting connections, right? Because those are the connected group, that top tier on the engagement journey that we looked at. Those are, those are the members that really drive the association and the mission, right? They donate, they volunteer, they bring in other members, they refer members, they're brand advocates, and those are the ones that are, they're going to be the foundation of the association going forward. Okay, anything else, Greg, that you would point out as a key takeaway?
I think doing any of these things is valuable. If you saw our presentation today and you say, I can't do everything you showed, that's a lot, don't worry about it. Do some of the stuff I showed today. Start to use some of these tactics and get better at it over time using your data. And yes, the recording will be available for everybody. Check out our YouTube channel. We've been archiving every one of these on our YouTube channel. No gateway, you don't have to give us your email or login or anything to get access to them. All of these recordings are out there for you to be able to see. Hopefully you'll stumble upon them and find value in them.
Yeah, and then for those that haven't started yet with their scoring, Katrina put a reference there, and how to get started with that. So there's some of the things we talked about, about choosing activities and weights and decay, and we give you some guidance on sort of parameters for how to set up a good score. But ultimately, there's a lot of quantitative ways to look at that, but ultimately the best test of your engagement score is you actually know who some of your best members are. When you run your scoring model, do you see those rising to the top and having the highest scores? And if you don't, then maybe that's something that you want to tweak.
Next session. What are we talking about next?
Yeah, so the next one is about strategic goals, right? So it's really about, and we touch on this in other webinars, but at the end of the day, we all have strategic plans. We really want to connect those as closely as possible in measurable ways that we can look at with data to what we're doing in our daily job. So we're going to talk about that. We don't have the exact date yet. We know many of our attendees are going to be dealing with ASA annual as we will be. We do have a couple of sessions there. I'll be speaking in one about using data for for more successful events, which hope some of you can check out. So very soon, yeah, you'll be hearing from us about the date and time of the next webinar, but it's going to be early September most likely, and we hope to see everyone there. And as always, we really do value your feedback. We pay attention to the stuff. You know, we look at all the data from your responses, and you definitely will see those reflected in future webinars. So if you take a minute to give us that feedback, we certainly appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you everybody for joining us. Let's hang out for 1 second. Alan has a question here. I don't mind answering this while we've got us here. Alan's talking to us about decay. So can you give us some ways you can reflect decay? Do you give minus points if people don't renew membership or attend an event each year when they log in with months? How does that work? The easiest way I think of decay as a lead balloon. Over time, that lead balloon is slowly going to sink, and the points I have earned are worth less and less. And there's a couple models for this. I don't think necessarily giving minus points for people not doing activities is the way to go about it. I think the way to go about it is the points they've already earned are worth less over time. That event I came to 5 years ago is significantly less valuable than the event Bill attended last fall. So what we recommend in your model is having a way to decay the points over time. Imagine a 3-year time frame, right? If I attended this event, I get full points. We'll say 10. Full points today, 10. In a year from now, I'm getting a third of those points. I'm getting 6.6 points. A third of that a year from now, I'm getting 3 points. And then at some point, I'm getting 0 points. So this then answers the question, well, if my system only gives points when I do things, how do I apply decay? And the answer is it's very challenging.
Yeah, let me add a little bit to that. So there's, I don't know that there's a wrong way to do this necessarily. I mean, if you are applying decay at all, I would say you're ahead of almost most associations, especially the ones that we talk to. I'll tell you how we do it is we look at a 3-year window, and we didn't come upon that by accident. We looked at smaller ones, we looked at longer ones, and for almost all the cases that we looked at, 3 years is the right amount of time to consider, and it's linear. So there's 36 months, and it's 1/36 per month, over 3 years until after 3 years, what I've done is no longer worth anything towards my engagement score. Now, there's one exception. There are some exceptions to that, and that is related to things which actually build in value over time. So, for example, if I'm a committee member, for every month that I'm a committee member, it's actually more highly engaged. The longer I remain on that committee, the more that should be worth, right? Or if you're counting months of continuous membership, the more months I have, the more that should be worth. So there are cases where we don't actually decay, but think of decay for something that applies to like an event I attended or a donation that I made or a webinar I took. The further back in the rearview mirror that is, the less that it contributes to your engagement score. So again, that's a really it's a bit of a hairy topic, and we can spend a whole webinar on that. Definitely, if you want to talk more about it, I'd be happy to do that offline. If you want to reach out to us, it's something we enjoy doing.
Yeah, I think you could do this in Excel if you tried. I think you could do it the easiest way would just be not count things longer than 3 years ago. You wouldn't actually have decay, it would just vanish. So you would only have 3 years of history in your model. It's not the same as decay because things don't slowly disappear over time, they just immediately vanish. However, that's one way to take some of that noise out of the equation. The other way is add a row and have a percentage. So you're going to get 10 points for coming to an event, but multiply that 10 by a percentage and go back in and change that percentage over time. So when we sum up that column, we do our math, we're adding 10 points times 60%. Next year I go in and say, okay, this event was 3 years ago, 10 points times 30% is going to be the answer there. I think it's going to require manual update as time progresses to do that in Excel. But I do think that you could apply some decay to your items. And maybe it's not everything. Maybe it's just major items in your model, like event participation, like tenure, those sort of things might apply. Not every little nuance. That might help out with some of your math.
Yep. Great question, though. Anything else?
That's all the questions I saw. I thought this was a really fun session to do. I love those insights from changing the deciles and watching the engagement change. I'd love if everybody had the ability to do that within their association. I think from a leadership standpoint, it would just change the way you think about your membership and the journey they take. And this session, as most of them, came from comments from you all. We were on one of the data analytics network sessions, and people were asking interesting questions about engagement scoring. And the topic of like, well, now that I have it, what the heck do I do with it came up. This next session here, all about how to use data to support your strategic goals, is another session that came out of comments and questions we got from you all. The question was really like, how does analytics support my mission? And part of this question was driven because people want analytics, but they have to convince the board that they need analytics. And we know the board's very mission driven. So we wanted to smash those two together and say, how can data help articulate your journey along the mission? Are you delivering the mission successfully? Are you doing the things the board's asking you to do? That's how this next session came about. So we're excited to present that. And I'm excited maybe not to be presenting that. We'll see who our speakers are. We might have some guests jump in and help us out with that one.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks, and hope everyone that's going to annual has a successful meeting, and we'll talk again soon.
See you at the pop-up.